That's right, we have actual Cyberpunk 2077 news to go over. We've got official updates from CD Projekt Red as to what's going on with Cyberpunk 2077. And also, we've got this one right here. A big leak may reveal huge upcoming update, and this actually has a date to it as well. A supposed date. Remember, it is also considered a leak, but it looks like cut content may be returning to the game. Plus, we're going to be talking about the Cyberpunk refunds because CD Projekt Red actually revealed some numbers regarding how many players refunded the game, and it's quite surprising. And yeah, we're going to be talking about some sales numbers as well. So hey everyone, what's happening? Open World Games here. Hope you're doing good, and let's dive into some Cyberpunk news right now. First of all, starting with that very big leak, let's dive into the article. This one comes from Comic Book. Check it out in the description below. They say this: a new Cyberpunk leak may have revealed a huge upcoming update that could possibly add back content that was removed from the game ahead of launch. Over on Reddit, an increasingly prominent Cyberpunk leaker has revealed that while using Epic Inspector, a custom tool used to access developer tools for the Epic Game Store, they came across some interesting tidbits pertaining to the CD Projekt Red game. Furthermore, they say this: according to the leaker, there's something called Content 1 under the versions category of Cyberpunk 2077 on the Epic Game Store, which they believe could bring back some of the content that was cut from the game. Whether this will happen or not remains to be seen, but the leaker notes that Epic expects this update to be available on June 10th. In other words, this content isn't very far away. Now, of course, remember, take this with a grain of salt. This is coming from a leaker, so keep that in mind. None of these dates are set in stone. But let's take a look further into this article. They say this: the leaker also reveals that all DLC has dedicated server capacity limits that could provide rough estimates on how big the DLC is. To this end, some of the DLC has 20 gigabytes allocated towards it, while other DLC has 30 gigabytes reserved. So they're pretty chunky DLCs. Now it says, unfortunately, this is more or less where the salient detail ends, but the leaker notes they're anticipating the game may make a big comeback during Q3, which is, say, this summer. Also, you have that big update coming up for next gen as well. So you have to remember that as well. Now, let's take a look at this. It says, accompanying all of this is some fairly convincing evidence, but that doesn't change the fact that everything here is unofficial and speculative. Further, the implications are vague, which can sometimes be indication of something fishy. In other words, taking everything here with a grain of salt. Yeah, just remember to take this all with a grain of salt, but it would definitely be very interesting to see something out in of course, June. Now, what do we know officially about the progress going on with Cyberpunk? So this one comes from Forbes. There was a recent conference call, I guess you would call a financial call, with CD Projekt Red and their investors, and they went on to say this right here: the split announced in the recent earnings call was that 40% of the Cyberpunk team was now working on fixes for the game, while the other 60% is working on new content. And those numbers used to be very lopsided in the other direction, and will continue to shift towards more and more of the team working on new content alone. So right now, it seems like, the further along we get with Cyberpunk releasing those patches and things like that, it's going to shift more and more towards the team working on brand new content for the game, which I think at this point a lot of us would want. And the PC version is by far one of the more stable versions of the game compared to, old gen technology and old gen consoles and that sort of thing. And I think a lot of us would love to see new content at this point, especially content that was potentially cut from the game. They could get it back into the game and re-release this stuff, perhaps even with the next gen update as well. Now let's go over some fascinating numbers, shall we? So let's talk about how much the game sold, and also what about those refunds? So this is really interesting right here. Let's take a look-see, shall we? Now, this is the article from Eurogamer. It says CD Projekt made over $214 million profit in 2020 despite Cyberpunk 2077 refunds costing tens of millions. It says refunds of Cyberpunk 2077 after disastrous launch failed to dent CD Projekt Red's sales success. In its financial report for last year, CD Projekt revealed 30,000 refunds were issued through its Help Me Refund program. The company spent 8.46, that's 1.6 million on the program, which barely touches their sales figures. Now it says, however, it's worth pointing out that the 30,000 refunds figure relates only to CD Projekt's own Help Me Refund program. It does not include refunds made by other shops and digital storefronts. I'm pretty sure they would want to do without the refunds altogether. It says, so the total refund figure will be significantly higher. What we do know is CD Projekt has outlined this is $37 million as provisions for returns. My God. So they're expecting a lot more, it says, which gives us a better idea of the amount of Cyberpunk refunds are costing the company. Now, $37 million is a lot of money, but it's loose change compared to the amount of cash CD Projekt Red made last year. Now, Cyberpunk 2077 sold a whopping 13.7 million copies in 2020. 56% of those sales were on PC Stadia, 28% on PlayStation, and 17% on Xbox. 73% of the sales were digital compared to 27% physical. Cyberpunk launched on the 10th of December, which means it hit that impressive sales figure in just a few weeks. That is insane. Now it says CD Projekt also confirmed the total budget for Cyberpunk, which weighed in about $217 million. A team of 530 developers at CD Projekt Red worked on the game, but over 5,200 people were engaged with the project over the course of its creation. I still think they were understaffed when it comes to their permanent 530 people working on the game. From what I understand, it needs to be like 1,000 with this sort of game. You see that from Rockstar and then also the likes of Ubisoft. So I think they needed more people on there for sure. But yeah, it's definitely some interesting figures right there. And then this all again comes from that recent financial call. There's further details as to what was said in that financial call. Let's take a look at this one right here. This is the official website, cdproject.com. It says in 2020, CD Projekt Group posted over $2.1 billion in sales revenues, a more than four-fold increase over the preceding year. This dynamic growth is primarily due to the December release of Cyberpunk 2077, the largest game in CD Projekt Red's history, which sold over 13.7 million copies by the end of 2020. Says the past year was an especially busy period for us, culminating in the release of the largest project in the 26-year history of CD Projekt. Owing to great effort in the part of the entire team, we managed to introduce a new franchise to the market. However, as far as the release itself, clearly not everything went according to plan. This was a huge lesson for us, one we will never forget, but I believe now is the time to look to the future. We remain ambitious and we are giving it our all to bring Cyberpunk to a level where everyone can fully enjoy the game regardless of platform, says Adam Kaczynski, President and Joint CEO of the CD Projekt Group. So they are now eyeballing the future going forward. It's going to be interesting to see what exactly happens with this game, and also Cyberpunk as a franchise. And also you got to consider they got to go back to The Witcher as well, at least someday, right? Now, this is an interesting one right here. Cyberpunk 2077 developer doesn't think fans understand how ambitious the game was to make. So Paolo Sasco, developer on Cyberpunk 2077, has been doing some live streams of Cyberpunk, and it says here, during a recent live stream, Paolo Sasco, who works as a lead quest designer on Cyberpunk, addressed some fan queries about how the game turned out as it did. I saw some people asking, like, what happened? Sasco said while on camera. What happened was that we have reached for a new IP and we have tried to learn as much as we can. Our goals have been super ambitious. I don't really feel like the players and the journalists completely understand how difficult it was to make this game. Do you guys agree with this opinion? I don't think that's the issue, the complete issue. I just think people were insanely disappointed with the launch of the game and, you know, how it was marketed, the false promises. I mean, you have the dev team on camera in interviews saying that, hey, you know, there's going to be individual police forces for every single gang. Like, that is not even a feature in the game. They should not be saying this sort of thing if it's not even gonna be in the game. So that, I think that was more of the issue than people realizing how difficult it was to make the game. I'm sure game development is extremely tough, for sure, especially when you're dealing with investors and the complexities of that. And then also there's the rumor that they had to rehaul the game because of Keanu Reeves. So yeah, there's a lot that he is truthful about right there. But again, the core issue is how the game actually turned out. All right, now it is time to go over your top comments from my most recent video about that recent patch. So let's take a look at what you guys had to say about that one, shall we? Let's do this. All right, scrolling down here, we have Lightspeed444 who says Night City needs barbershops, tattoo shops, cosmetic surgery, dentists change teeth, car shops, paint spray, car wash, houses for sale. Also needs things like emergency services like fire engines and ambulances that arrive to scenes. Police should use cars to get you rather than spawn behind you. I could type so much more. And again, this stuff should have been in the base game. Like, this is the most common stuff that you see in practically every open world game. So I'm really surprised that didn't make it in the final game. But hopefully, once again, that big update that's supposedly coming out this summer includes a bunch of cut content that didn't make it into the final build. All right, Hugman says this, now all we need is them to add more clothes because the fact NPCs have so many outfits you can't wear is maddening. That would be cool. Sam Smith says buying the game on launch and continuing, to play consistently through multiple playthroughs, and months later only realizing now that I'm a beta tester. That is, yeah, I hear ya. Early access tag on this game would have went a long way, I think, with the expectations for this one. That's what they should have done, and honestly, I think gaming companies need to take a step back and really ask themselves, should we put an early access tag on this before they dare release it as like a full, final, finished product? Alright guys, there it is, the latest happenings around Cyberpunk 2077. Stay tuned for more news about this one, and of course, you guys know I'm covering Outriders, and I do hope to cover some more games here in the future. Let me know what you would like to see. Thank you for watching, and I will see you all next time. Take care.